that. All right. Let's get to some sports now, Mike. Go ahead. What do you got for us?
Yeah, let's dive in. Yesterday we had Zach on. He gave us some of his in-person observations of the quarterback battle, some of the receiver stuff, and another thing he mentioned.
I didn't get to say. Give me a 30-second to watch yesterday. Give me a 30-second recap of what Zach said about the quarterback situation.
He was very surprised that the order of the quarterbacks had pivoted. Shedeur got more reps with the ones in the competitive 11-on-11s than Deshaun, which was a deviation from the previous two open OTAs to the media. He said neither of the quarterbacks looked particularly good, but he thought Shedeur outperformed Deshaun in yesterday's open OTA session.
I'll just throw this out there. I know we're not talking about it. You wonder if the Myles Garrett trade played a role in now Shedeur getting more first-team reps. I don't know. It could just have been planned anyway. I'm just throwing that out there.
And
because it already made sense to play Shedeur to me ahead of Watson. Now trading Myles Garrett makes even more sense. But I'll leave it there.
I think we all agree on that. Another thing he pointed out was that yesterday was the first time rookie Spencer Fano got reps with the ones. He had been with the twos in the first two open OTAs. Yesterday he was with the ones. Todd Monken was asked about the quarterback and the offensive line situation. Todd Monken said this in regards to the offensive line. O-line-wise, as we start to move the pieces around and get them together, I think we'll have a better idea. I don't know that yet, though. I have a pretty good idea in the O-line. I really feel like I have a pretty good idea of 4 of the 5, and then we have to figure out who's that 5th. Does that make sense? He later went on to talk about the 4 he felt confident in were Fano, Zion Johnson, who they just signed, Elton Jenkins, and Titus Howard, who they traded for, which means the 2 different options that could possibly be the starting offensive line for the Browns, assuming health, are these. You're going to see option A on one side, option B on the other side.
Why are there only 2 options, Mike?
Based off what Zach said yesterday, these are the 2 options that they're
but the kid they drafted out of Florida,
Austin Barber,
couldn't he play guard?
I guess technically these are the 2 options Zach said.
He was drafted ahead of Brailsford, so why wouldn't that be a possibility?
I'm just telling you what Zach said yesterday.
Fine,
these were the 2 options that they are considering. Option A, you have Fano at left tackle, Zion Johnson at left guard. Those 2 would be consistent across the board. Option A, Elton Jenkins at center, Tevin Jenkins, who they brought back at right guard, with Titus Howard at right tackle. Option B, rookie Parker Brailsford, their 5th-round pick out of Alabama, would get the starting nod with Elton Jenkins moving to right guard where he was a 2-time Pro Bowler before. So, G, when you look at these 2 different options, A, do you think one's necessarily better than the other? And 2, Brailsford was a 5th-round pick, an undersized guy that Todd Monken said if he weighed 20 pounds more would have been a day 2 pick at worst. Do you think he can legitimately beat out either Luke Whippler or whoever else is in that center conversation to be the Browns' starting center in Week 1?
Yeah. And like both of them, like this is, I think, well, Bull, you said it. You can't automatically diminish it. But here's what we're looking at. You look at those two rundowns, right? You look at Brailsford. They drafted him. They think, oh wow, okay. If he was a couple pounds heavier, he would have went higher in the draft. They get him in camp. They see him moving around. They're like, wow, he might have put on a little weight. We actually think he can actually hold up.
Yeah.
And the thing that you're looking at is Elton Jenkins is the guy who is actually hurt. So when he says there's 4, I actually heard the soundbite. He said there's 4. I'm pretty sure on 4 to 5. When he said that to me, I thought, well, that just basically depends on what Elton Jenkins can be and how fast is he going to be back to being regular 100%. All the rest of the guys are out there. So when they move Fano at tackle, when they said it was the first day that he has actually started going with the ones with all those reps,
right?
You can't discount what you said. When you move Myles Garrett, it's a whole lot of things.
Yeah,
that's on the table. Now all of a sudden, you start to see, hey, Isaiah Bond's name is being mentioned a little bit. Oh, Brailsford name. Hey, listen, and the kid from Florida, I wouldn't be surprised if
What's
he's
his name? I can't think of his name.
Austin Barber.
Austin Barber. But he's going to be actually in the mix. So to me, could Brailsford start? Yeah. I think they're playing it by word. They're playing it by ear. And you're going to see a lot of people who were penciled in as starters that are no longer penciled in. They're going to give these young dudes an opportunity to play. And it was not a coincidence that he came out and said Fano was playing and get more reps now.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, I can see Brailsford being the starting center. Mike, if I can see that side-by-side graphic again, I think I like option B a little better than option A. If you go back and you look at the graphic, if I can see that.
He's pulling it up, don't worry.
So, like, if you look at the right guard, I think, like, Telvin Jenkins is more of a rotational guard. I don't see him as a starting offensive lineman. And so option B, to me, it just looks more feasible, especially when you throw Austin Barber into the mix, a guy that can probably compete or at least be the first rotational guy. I think the Browns got depth across the board, but when you got a rookie interior offensive lineman surrounded by veterans and he's got a high football IQ, it's on him to put on the weight before we get to the start of the season. So I can definitely see option B being the case. I do like the fact that you got a Luke Whippler as well that can be your backup or compete with him, that can play multiple positions. When I look at the Browns offensive line in totality, I just see a bunch of guys with a lot of versatility, and that's something that Todd Monken and Andrew Berry both spoke to that they like.
I think the fact that they have a lot of players that have position flexibility is good because it gives you, in theory, the opportunity to start the 5 best players.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, you're not stuck like, well, this guy can only play left guard and my next best guy can only play left guard. Well, I can't play them both. No,
right.
That's not really the situation here. Now, I've said all along that I think Shedeur Sanders should start. And the reason I bring that up now is because, especially if I'm going with a young quarterback, and Shedeur Sanders is a young quarterback, I would like a veteran center. And if you bring up the graphic again, on the left side, I have veterans except for left tackle. Mm-hmm. And Fano's a first-round pick. I don't care that he's a rookie. Mm-hmm. Brailsford might turn out to be a good player, but I'd be a little worried starting a 5th-round rookie right off the bat. That makes me a little nervous. Now, I'm not at practice. He might be fantastic for all I know. But Tevin Jenkins, we're talking about Tevin Jenkins. Now, the only thing that makes me hesitant about the left side is that Elton Jenkins has been better as a guard than he has as a center. However, as a center, he's still a good NFL player who played the position last year, and he's a veteran. And I think that it would probably benefit Shedeur Sanders to have a veteran center. And in that case, Tevin Jenkins, again, he may not be, I think in a perfect world, you're right, he's a 6th offensive lineman and not a starter. But we don't know that Brailsford's a starter for sure yet either. And Jenkins is good enough in the short term to be a starter, at least in the beginning. And then maybe as the season, we know, unfortunately, guys are going to get hurt, and they're going to have to make changes. But I think in the beginning of the season, I'd rather have the veteran at center, unless Brailsford makes it completely clear in training camp, hey, he's too good, he shouldn't have been a 5th-round pick, we got to start this guy.
I talked to my brother the other day, and my brother, he played tackle, he played guard, and he said, when you look at it from a standpoint of Brailsford,
he likes him, right?
He likes him. He likes him. He said because playing center is very difficult on your body. Yeah. Like it's just more in tune to it. You got to be able to snap. You got to be able to snap and block. You got to be able to snap and still get pushed off the line of scrimmage. Yeah. And Brailsford is a guy who is used to doing it. It's just natural. He said, now if you're coming off injury, I would rather play guard than I would rather play center because it's less mentally, it's less physically, and he said at this point Elton Jenkins was already better as a guard than he was a center. Right. And so I said I never thought of it that way, but I didn't think of it the level that you have to, and plus calling out plays, calling out the schemes and everything, like that's pretty much the quarterback of the offensive line. So you might want to ease him back, and if that's his better position, you got a guy that's young that like the only knock on him was he's a little light in the britches. But then again, Mason Graham was light. So
and on that point,
Fano's a little light.
He's a little light.
But on the point of the lighter center, Tyler Lindenbaum is a smaller center in terms of like traditional size. Mm-hmm. He was drafted by Todd Monken and the Ravens and obviously developed into the highest paid interior offensive line. No, I know, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
from a size-wise, Brailsford and Linderbaum are the same size.
Right.
Yeah.
So Monken's not afraid to go with a center who may be a little smaller than your traditional middle-of-the-run center size in the NFL. Linderbaum, obviously a better athlete. He was a first-round pick versus a fifth-round pick.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Monken's not afraid of going with a smaller center and knowing how to utilize his athletic traits, even if he's 15, 20 pounds lighter than
but
the average.
I don't know if that's really a fair comparison because Linderbaum, based on based on what the Ravens thought of him, is a much better prospect than Brailsford is.
Yeah, I think Linderbaum plays a little lower too. Like the reason he's able to do that is because he has good level functional strength. Like, some people is just light and they get pushed around a lot, but some people don't get pushed around. Like Joe Thomas was one of the lighter tackles. He never got pushed around like
That's
that.
true.
Because he always played with good leverage. So to me, it's interesting, like you said, Bull, and Earl, it's like they put themselves in a position where they got a lot of guys that they can plug and play. So if nothing happens, if something comes up, hey, I could put you here. I could put you here. I could put you here.
Well, I think they got a lot of quality on the interior of the offensive lineman. And when we had draft experts on our show leading up to the draft, they talked about the tackle position being top heavy and it was a major drop off. But a lot of the experts said, well, the interior of the offensive line is where you get some real good players at, and you can get those guys in the later rounds. And so it's not a surprise to me that they found Barber and Brailsford in the later rounds. And you got to believe in the coaching, and we'll talk about that a little later. But if Warhop can coach these guys up and get them developed, then you got to thank our offensive coordinator, Travis Schweitzer, is a former offensive lineman, and he's really familiar with schemes and things like that. I think he'll be okay because, like I said, he'll still be surrounded by some veterans. And so we'll see how it plays out. I just know, those guys that's in that rotation, the Luke Whipplers, the Zach Zenters, the DeJuan Joneses of the world.
I don't think Zach Zenter's making it. Be on the team.
That's my point. You guys see what's going on right in front of you.
Yeah, well,
you got to put in major work to make yourself noticed, man, because these guys are jockeying for positions and your names is not being mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Whippler, Zinter, and DeJuan Jones are not even in the mix to be a starter. I think it's
no.
I think it's the six guys we talked about, maybe Barber, who's also a rookie, and that's it, I think.
Well, now this puts an emphasis back on. See, this is a whole new conversation. I think when you look at the conversation with the Cleveland Browns prior to Myles Garrett in the conversation that you're having right now, this new conversation is, okay, well, now people say, I don't know about the preseason. Oh, no. These preseason games are important now because now you're not really necessarily keeping everybody healthy and ready to go where everybody getting starting positions. Now you got second-team dudes like DeJuan Jones, they got to show up and play well.
Yeah.
They got a new dude with some young guys, and now you won't know. I think you won't know who's going to win that position until you get pads on, because if Brailsford is able to hold his own and pads, now all of a sudden you can say, well, I could put Jenkins as guard.
I think in a perfect world, Brailsford wins that center job and Elton Jenkins plays guard, and that's what I think that's what they're hoping.
Yeah.
And they look, and maybe Barber eventually down the line takes over for one of the other guys. Yeah. We'll see.
He's never played guard before, just a heads up.
Well,
Austin Barber, he was drafted as a tackle.
I hear you. They talked about him potentially playing guard.
I'm just saying we projected him as he's never played guard in his life.
Right. When I'm saying down the line, I didn't necessarily mean guard for Barber. Like down the line, he could take over as the right tackle. And Titus Howard is how old is he?
He's got a year or two left. He's 31.
Right. Like
two of these dudes is going to get injured. I'm just going to let you know.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way offensive line works. Two of them going to get injured. And you just got to deal with it. Now, when they get injured, you got a couple guys to go in and be able to plug them.
Now, we got these guys all have a lot to prove. I mean, what's his name? The guard they signed from the Chargers wasn't very good last year.
Zion Johnson.
Fano's a rookie. Brailsford's a rookie. Barber's a rookie. So there's a lot to prove.
Yeah, it is.
But on paper, it's obviously way better than it was last year. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Albert Breer wrote an interesting article about the Myles Garrett trade and, kind of all that went on behind the scenes. We'll discuss that next on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.